Hello everyone. Today I'll be speaking about why you need to stop having retries in your test and also stop rerunning of the failing tests. I'm Anand Bagmar. I've been in the quality space for more than 20 years now. I work with product and services organizations to help them build a quality product. That's enough about me. Let's get into the topic itself. The topic is related to flaky test. Flaky test, also known as intermittent test, and what this means is the tests do not pass consistently. They do not give a consistent feedback. I'm sure you have heard about the UI test being brittle or flaky. If not, that's a big surprise. And I would definitely need to want to talk to you to understand how have you achieved stableness, robustness of your UI automation. So why are tests flaky? Let's understand that. There could be various different reasons why tests give different kind of results. They are not deterministic. This could be because of environment issues, network issues, timing related issues, or sometimes page loading takes longer than expected. There could be performance issues of the product itself. Uh, the product itself could have defects. For example, race conditions, which depending on load on the product can behave differently. Functionality can behave differently. There could be certain deployments happening in the backend while the test is running, which again means your test is not going to give correct results. There could be a lot of downstream dependencies that your tests have, which again you don't have control over those. So your tests again will behave inconsistently in such situations. Data dependencies is also a very common aspect when underlying data changes or there's dynamic data, uh, and that can create problems in your test executions. You cannot discount the fact that the test itself is poorly implemented. It's poor test design, poor test framework architecture, poor choice of tool sets for that matter, and that can result in inconsistent behaviors. Of course, as the product evolves, the locator changes, and if you have not used your locator strategy wisely, you can have a lot of failures because of that. And of course, when you're running the tests on different browsers or on different devices, that can give different results as well. So these are some of the reasons that I can think of immediately when I think of why are tests flaky. Now, there are a lot of ideas that people propose that seem to be good initially, but are not really good. And I'll explain why. So the first is about let's rerun the failing tests automatically because test runners provide that kind of capability. And it's a great way to get rid of flaky tests. As long as the test passes, eventually you are good in that sense. So in that case, you do not really need to spend time to to debug and find the root cause of why that test failed, even on that one instance. And you do not need to follow up with team members, or you don't need to juggle between your own priorities to fix the issue yourself. But why this is important to avoid is because these types of tests can indicate specific aspects about your product. It could mean there are some network issues in your ecosystem which causes these failures. You need to address that. Your environment itself, product, the way it is deployed could be unstable, which can cause these issues. We spoke about the defect in the product itself, which is exposed only in certain situations. That can cause a problem. And of course, a poor test implementation. For example, the weights and delays, you're mixing implicit and explicit weights. For example, if you're using Selenium WebDriver-based APIs, and that is poor test implementation, or you put sleeps in your code, that is again poor test implementation. So these could create a lot of problems. The other aspect of solution that is proposed at times is, why don't you retry to see if this functionality is working well, if the button, for example, is clickable or not before you proceed, instead of just failing the first time you encounter that problem. So that retrying inside a test itself is, again, a very big anti-pattern. It's a problem, again, because you're relying on hope that eventually this will pass. And this could be related to page loads, elements visible, clickable, etc., the interaction aspects of it. And if it doesn't, again, if it doesn't really work well, then the test will fail, which again means that you have to rerun the test and debug and fix the issue. So these are problems that you are trying to avoid by implementing the retries. What this type of issue may indicate, where certain aspects of your page or your product are not working as expected in terms of the timing aspect of it, it potentially exposes some performance issues, whether it's on the client side or so API or server side. That is not a problem, or rather that can indicate the problem. So these solutions, rerunning versus retries, are, in my opinion, a banded approach. You are seeing an easy way out how to fix this problem, and you're focused on just fixing the symptoms and not really spending enough time to analyze the root cause of the issue and fix it at the source itself. So this is a problem. How do you move beyond this? How do you remove flakiness from your test? Let's talk about that quickly as well. First is reduce the number of UI tests. We know about the test pyramid since a long time, but how do we really understand it? What do we do to implement it in our teams, in our product? And that is a big thing. So focus on how do you build the quality and how do you really make quality a team responsibility. Choose the practices that help versus the checklist approach of just saying someone prescribing a set of practices to have for your team. Choose these practices wisely. Code quality is extremely important from a product as well as test perspective, and so is understanding of tech debt and managing the tech debt, a very crucial activity. How soon can you address tech debt? At what points you really need to think about that. Think about the quick feedback from a CI perspective, parallel execution. The test data strategy again becomes a very important aspect to look at. Do root cause analysis, fix the root cause, not the symptom, very important. Upskilling is a very important activity as well, based on the choice of processes, practices, tool set that you use, the tech stack that you use. You might need to upskill your team members in order to use things efficiently. And of course, choose tools fit for purpose. The second aspect is think about intelligent service virtualization, especially when it comes to doing end-to-end tests or workflow type of tests, whether at API level or at UI level. So think about how can you use service virtualization in the intelligent fashion that will help you test many more scenarios as early in the cycle as possible. And Contract is one such open source tool that I'm helping work on, build, which will allow you to do that. The last bit is this aspect is growing very, very powerful in terms of how do you make your functional automation robust, is by reducing the lines of code that you really write for your functional validations, the assertions, but how can you complement that with using visual assertions where you get a much more wider test coverage from your functional execution, which includes your user experience aspects as well. So I hope I'm able to explain to you why the rerun and retry mechanism is not the right approach for you, and instead also look at some concrete ways how you can make this better. Thank you very much.